And welcome back to Preparing for the Unexpected. We are broadcasting live from DRJ Spring 2024 in Orlando. I'm here with my co host, James Green. James, we are into hour 4.
I can't believe it's already hour 4, Alex. This is flying by. This hour is brought to us by Flexential, longtime partner of ours. Flexential empowers the IT journey of the nation's most complex businesses by offering tailored hybrid IT solutions delivered via the Flex Anywhere platform of integrated co-location, cloud, connectivity, data protection, managed services. They have over 3 million square feet of data center space.
Wow.
19 highly connected markets. Thank you and welcome back to Flexential.
Yes, nice to have you back on board. They were with us last year.
That they were.
So now we have, 15? When does our guest come? 15,
We have
15 minutes. So you and I get to chat for 15 minutes. What do you want to talk about? What's bugging you in the world of resilience?
In 15 minutes, I want to talk about one of my favorite things, regulatory compliance.
No.
I know how much you love I find these things. So New Zealand, the New Zealand Financial Market Authority has released consultation documents around business continuity and resilience. And as we all know, when a government puts out a consultation document, it means that there is a regulation coming. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is they had some wording in here that made me angry.
Made you angry? Okay.
It said the purpose is that as well as supporting the well-functioning financial markets, which sounds great, this I'm trying to translate here in real time some stuff. This regulation will help consumers to have confidence that their information and investments are being properly looked after. That's the exact verbiage. So you and I have talked about regulatory requirements in business continuity before. So what are your thoughts, Alex, that a regulation will help consumers ensure that their information is being properly looked at?
My first thought that popped into my head is each consumer is going to define that differently for themselves as to what properly means. So that would be a challenge. And there are so many consumers out there with their own definitions of things, like we said earlier on, that how are you going to have a standard to meet consumer uh, demands? Because each consumer, between you and I, we would both expect two different things by looking at the same product. So how is that going to come across in a standard for a financial institution or any institution?
Not only each consumer, but think about each company. Let's say you and I each own companies that process data. I may decide that properly looked after means I never get hit by ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
And you may decide that it means that unavailability of a week, as long as you get it back, is properly looked after.
Yeah, I have immutable backups. There we go. That's properly to me. Yeah, properly seems one of those really wishy-washy words.
I feel like a politician wrote that because a politician did write
it. There you go. That's why. No commitment.
But the other reason I bring it up, every time I find a regulation, a new one related to our space, I like to bring it to you and we discuss its pros and cons. So now this is, I don't know how many legal jurisdictions we've found have regulations. Are we making people more resilient? Are we mitigating risk? And obviously that's a loaded question, but everyone's talking about DORA. We've got DORA, the Explorer in the EU. We have Singapore, we have Australia, we have New Zealand.
And I remember bringing forward one in Bhutan.
Correct.
And Malaysia.
And they're all disjointed and disconnected. So why do you think these laws keep getting enacted?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One, politically, politicians want to be seen to be doing something, and sometimes they don't even understand what it is what they're doing, or that they don't fully understand the topic they're trying to address. Put it that way. Two, if you're in, well, I'm Canadian, you're American, so if America has a standard, Canada's going to create their own because the other country, Canada's not going to want to be seen being told by the U.S. what to do. So each country is going to come up with their own to show that, hey, we are doing something about it. So that's the joint creates some more disjointment between standards. Then what we talked about earlier on with terminology, things that mean something to other people, using terms, it means this thing, one thing to one person, another to another. The same thing's going to happen in these standards because companies will be told to adopt them. If New Zealand, for example, you have to adopt this standard. But for the last 30 years, you've been defining something as a different way. And we've already talked with guests who say, find what works to you. Well, now I'm being told I have to follow something else. So that's going to create some friction. Then you've got, excuse me. I just had the thought that jumped out of my head. Talking too long, I guess. Yeah.
Well, let me approach it from another direction then. Why don't countries just adopt the ISO standards for business continuity and crisis management as their regulatory standard? Then you'd have every country working from the same, and I'm not saying that ISO is good or bad, but as an example, ISOs are internationally accepted standards. They're widely used throughout the world. Why wouldn't, instead of everyone doing something a little different, what would happen if everyone said we're going to follow this third-party standard?
Well, if we all followed one, it would make things a lot easier. But then at the same time, that also might make us complacent that following the same line, so we're not challenging anything that's out there with a new standard or something. So there's that danger. But the pro is everybody then would use the same terminology, would be doing the same things, and you would all have the same expectations of each other. You would all be communicating hopefully the same way with each other, and you would address some of those concerns that exist right now. But again, as I said at the beginning, if we do that, then we become complacent and we stop. We will get to the point where we're not paying attention to new things that are cropping up and changes that are happening. Because we both know this, adopting some of these standards can take years to do. And if we're only following that, the world and the business world, the political world is all changing in the background. And we have to be able to move forward. And some of these standards don't change that fast.
They do not. But what do you think it is about our profession that makes us so special? And so what I'm thinking of is in privacy. GDPR was the first and biggest privacy regulatory requirement. And largely other jurisdictions have adopted most of it. Maybe there's some minor tweaks, but GDPR may fit 90 to 95% of another regulatory jurisdictions requirements. But when it comes to business continuity and resilience, everyone says, hey, let's just start over and we'll all build ours from the ground up. So there's, like, I feel if you're GDPR compliant and you now move into California, which has its own privacy regs, you're 95% of the way there. Yeah. But you may be OPRA's compliant in the UK, and if you're now in Singapore, New Zealand, or Australia, you may be 5%. So what do you think it is? Is it us, or is it privacy? Like, why is it that those are kind of two similar fields, two different types of risk? One is much less chaotic.
I think, again, it's part of it is also how serious the body looking into it, or the government looking into it. Is privacy or cyber or business continuity or emergency response, whatever, is that a priority for that government? Are they doing it for themselves as a tick box exercise to get votes? Or are they doing it, creating a standard to actually address an existing issue that has happened, or in response to an issue like the wildfires in Australia? As an example, we found lacking XYZ. Okay, so here's a standard let's put in place because we had issues. Okay, that's going to be different than, oh, we don't have anything, so we're going to put something in place.
Let's just make it up.
Yeah, we'll make it up as we go, which is you end up with words like, what was it, probably?
Yes, probably,
Yeah,
possibly.
probably. Yeah.
So I do wonder, since GDPR was so widely adopted, if the EU puts forth some type of resilient standard, let's say the EU adopts DORA from the UK, are people going to just kind of, oh, well, that's what we did for privacy, so that's what we'll do for operas? That'll be interesting to me when we have this conversation in a few years to see if there's a leader or if it's still fragmented chaos.
Well, I think it's also who it comes from, because London was, and even though they're not a part of the EU, is still a big financial hub for Europe.
Absolutely.
So if the Bank of England comes out with something, a lot of people are going to follow. If that was the Bank of
Alex.
Bank of Alex, yeah, I don't want to name a country in case somebody sends me
Let's go
emails.
Bank of Alex. We don't want to get in trouble.
So if something comes through Bank of Alex, it's like, oh well, you're just a tiny little thing. Who cares, right? But when you've got the bank of the financial hub saying something, well, then you're going to get the EU to follow what the Bank of England is putting forward, or the UK is going to follow something that's coming out of the EU, because some of those standards now, they're already making waves over here in the US and Canada. And when they were first coming out, people were just, you had the Brits and the Europeans going crazy about it. People over here not doing anything about it.
But I'm glad you mentioned Brexit, because I don't think GDPR would have happened post Brexit. Yeah. I don't know if you would have had the EU and the UK to agree on anything, really, let alone those comprehensive privacy laws ever.
Yeah.
And so that might be part of it too, like you said, looking at the Bank of England's operational resilience standards, and the EU is like, well, yes, London is one of the biggest financial centers in the world, but they're not part of the EU. Why should we listen to London over New York or Shanghai or Tokyo or Singapore?
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So is this our next guest waiting over in the wings?
I can't see his.
I can't see either.
That must be. I think that's.
I think so.